Good morning, everyone. I'm Phil Lipoff, and thanks so much for streaming with us today. The federal hate crime trial for the 3 men convicted in the murder of Ahmaud Arbery begins today in Georgia. Travis McMichael, Gregory McMichael, and William Roddy Bryan are charged with interfering with Arbery's rights and attempted kidnapping, among other charges. Opening arguments are expected this afternoon. The Ambassador Bridge connecting the U.S. and Canada finally reopened overnight after being shut down for days. Police cleared the busiest border crossing in North America after hundreds of protesters against COVID-19 restrictions blocked that area. All of this while parts of Ottawa remain gridlocked with trucker convoy protests. And the Los Angeles Rams, if you stayed up, you saw it, Super Bowl champs, scoring a late touchdown to beat the Cincinnati Bengals 23-20. Wide receiver Cooper Kupp caught that game-winning pass and also was named the game's MVP. But we begin with the showdown with Russia over Ukraine. The White House warning that an attack could come at any time as President Biden engages in some last-ditch diplomacy with Vladimir Putin and the Ukrainian president over the weekend. Joining me now for more on all of this is former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for the Middle East and ABC News national security and defense analyst Mick Mulroy, as well as ABC News senior national correspondent Terry Moran, who is on the ground in Lviv, Ukraine. Terry, we're going to start with you. Here in the U.S., intelligence agencies are making these concerns extremely public. They're telling us every step of the way what's happening, what they think could happen. But what's it like there on the ground in Ukraine?
Well, Phil, good morning to you. Good evening from Lviv, the Catholic University here in the Ukrainian Catholic University here in Lviv. And the feeling here is very, very different than what the American government has been communicating. And that disconnect may be accurate, or it may be something to be concerned about. But I'll tell you, we came out here in part because of the increasing tension around the borders. And we flew out here, and the airport was almost deserted. But the real news here today, it seems to me, is the diplomatic front. It is accelerated. There is more activity. The German chancellor says there's more room for talks. Russia says there's more room for talks. And in fact, the Russian government is now saying that those troops massed on the border will go home after the exercises are completed in the next few days. Now, it doesn't matter, as the U.S. government has said, what Moscow is saying, but what they're seeing on the ground. And here in Ukraine, they are following their government's lead. Their government is saying, don't panic. That really what you're seeing is an information war, that Ukraine is caught between Russia's ambitions and America's geopolitical interests. And our job is not to buy into either one. Don't panic. But they can see those troops on the border. They can see what Russia is doing. And talking to people here, you get the sense that while they are living their lives, the airport, as I said, deserted Saturday night in Kiev, where we were, looked like a normal Saturday night. It's not far beneath the surface in every conversation that the concerns about what might happen are there. But right now, people remain calm. There's no rush for the borders. And it almost has given the disconnect with what the Biden administration has been telling Americans here almost surreal sometimes. People call me, friends and loved ones, family are saying, you know, can you get out? And of course, we are making contingency plans. But more important, it does feel very, very different than how the Biden administration has been describing it. We will find out if the Ukrainian assessment is accurate or if something else happens.
Yeah, and Terry, on that point with this information war right now between the Americans and the Russians, I want to bring Mick in. Mick, why do you think the U.S. agencies and the administration being so open about what they think is going to happen as Russia continues to deny any intention to invade? Is it some sort of tactic, or are they just being transparent?
So, Phil, I think it's actually both. I think they want to make sure that the Russians know that we know what they're doing, both for transparency, as you say, so that they know that we don't want a miscalculation as we put forces in close proximity to each other. The other one is to essentially thwart some of their activities. If we put out there that we believe our intelligence that they are considering a false flag operation to incite this actual conflict, it might be more difficult to actually do that, in which anybody would believe it. So I think it's both transparency and an effort to thwart their even considering using some of these deceptive tactics.
And Terry, we know this in part because of your reporting. The latest movements from Russia is that submarine sailing into the Black Sea. More than 130,000 Russian troops are in place across Ukraine's borders, you've told us. Just this morning, Russia's defense minister says that military exercises are nearing their finish. And I'm curious to see what you make of that. It could go both ways, but does that mean that Russia's finished there and this is going to be de-escalating, or does this mean they're finished exercising and ready to go in?
Well, it's pretty clear the Kremlin wants to keep people guessing, and so the diplomacy has accelerated with those statements from the Russian Foreign Ministry, opening the door, it seems, to a de-escalation here, to Russian troops pulling back. On the other hand, the actual facts on the ground is that you've got that submarine into the Black Sea, joining a massive flotilla out there. More than 30 warships, many of them major amphibious assault ships out there. And we are seeing in the open source intelligence that you can find more forces flowing west from eastern Russia. They're taking more forces, bringing more, and the forces that are here, it seems, are beginning to take up more forward positions close to the Ukrainian border. So the options there are open. The question is it a bluff or not? And the real challenge is, Vladimir Putin has asked for a lot. He's asked for the moon, essentially, from the West. He wants Ukraine, guarantee Ukraine will never join NATO. He wants NATO to roll back to 1997 positions with essentially the troops coming out of those newer NATO countries. Those are non-starters. So what does he get if he does pull back? Because he's put everything, he's got all his chips in the middle of the table right now. And the question is, what's he going to do?
Mick, as Terry points out, if it perhaps is not a bluff and Russia does decide to go in, tell us a bit what that might look like. What would Russia's first move be? And does Ukraine have the ability to fend it off?
So I think we're seeing the first of the movements that we would expect for a full-on invasion, and that is vehicles and personnel moving out of the assembly areas that Terry is just talking about. So they're starting to get into attack positions, tank formations, artillery, and the like. So what can we expect to see? The first would likely be a massive cyber attack to disrupt the communication system within Ukraine, electronic warfare to jam radars and other things that would detect the onslaught of an air campaign, and then artillery in preparation for the battlefield, and then, of course, the movement of troops and tanks into Ukraine. Now, I think it's important to point out, this isn't a perfect example, but it is an example that's fairly recent. The conventional invasion and occupation of Iraq by the United States back in 2003. We had 180,000 troops to do that. And Iraq was about 40% less in size and about 7 million people less in population. So I think this is important to point out, because this is not going to be easy for the Russians, not the invasion and not the occupation.
All right, the eyes of the world on the Ukraine-Russian border today. Terry Moran, McMulray, thank you both so much. Appreciate it. Meantime, the polls are open and early voting is underway in Texas, the first state to hold primaries for this year's midterm elections. It's always the first election cycle under Texas's controversial, or it is the first under this new controversial new voting law, which bans drive-through and 24-hour voting, makes it a felony for election officials to send mail-in ballot applications to voters who have not requested them, but also expands early voting hours. Republicans say the law makes the state's elections more secure. Democrats and voting rights activists say it actually makes it more difficult for minority voters to cast their ballots. So now I want to bring in Mimi Marziani, the president of the Texas Civil Rights Project, for more on all of this. Mimi, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, Phil.
So right off the bat, have you seen this law have an impact already today?
Absolutely. And in fact, voting by mail has been going on for the last couple weeks. So we have some data to assess the impact. And look, voters are confused and they're frustrated. We are seeing record numbers of vote by mail applications be rejected. And now we are seeing vote by mail ballots be rejected. And because of Texas's existing laws around voting by mail, the people impacted are older folks, folks with disabilities, and students. So already vulnerable groups.
So let's go through the law a little bit. The law also gives poll watchers free movement within polling places and the ability to, quote, observe all election activities. makes it a crime for an election official to knowingly prevent a watcher from observing an activity, and prohibits officials from refusing to accept watchers into a polling place. So having seen all that laid out like that, why is that really concerning?
Well, I mean, this is right out of Trump's big lie playbook. And in addition to that, we have seen a long history of partisan poll watchers in Texas using that position to intimidate both voters and election workers, the thankless, job of folks to keep our elections running day in and day out. And so now with more expanded powers and with early voting starting today, our team of lawyers and advocates across the state are standing by and are vigilant to make sure that these partisan poll watchers aren't able to use their new power to disrupt the election process.
The Justice Department has filed a lawsuit against Texas's newly redistricted congressional map, arguing that it was drawn to intentionally limit the representation of people of color. How could that affect these elections?
Yeah, I mean, look, we saw a lot happen last year in Texas. In addition to the maps, which have been sued, many people have sued over the maps, arguing that they are racially discriminatory. And we saw this new voter restriction bill, 76 pages in length, with a whole host of new restrictions. And the fact of the matter is that both of these laws are bad news for democracy in Texas, and they have negative impacts on all Texans, regardless of your race, regardless of your party, regardless of where you live. However, we also know that the most vulnerable Texans, folks who have historically been shut out of positions of power, so people of color, folks from immigrant backgrounds, younger people, older people, people with disabilities, are being most negatively impacted.
All right, Mimi Marziani from Texas Civil Rights Project. We know you'll be watching this. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now to the fight against COVID-19. The FDA, as you know, has postponed a review of the Pfizer COVID vaccine for children younger than 5. An advisory committee was actually set to meet tomorrow to discuss whether to recommend an emergency use authorization for the vaccine. But the FDA saying it makes sense to wait until all the data is in on the proposed 3-shot. Right now, the data is only in on the first 2 shots. That data is available right now. Joining me now for more on all of this is Chief Innovation Officer at Boston Children's Hospital and ABC News medical contributor, Dr. John Brownstein. Dr. Brownstein, thanks.
Good to see you, Phil.
Good to see you, too. Right off the bat, what do you make of the FDA postponing this review? A good thing, bad thing?
Yeah. You know, obviously, this is disappointing news to a lot of parents, but I do think it's a wise move. We have to make sure that we have the best data possible to drive decisions. This is super critical. And what we saw is that initially regulators believed that they could bring through this 2-shot strategy, but now new data is coming to light, especially with the surge of Omicron. It's very clear that we need more data on efficacy to drive decisions. So there's that 3-shot data that's probably going to come into April. They want that collection of all that information to make the right decisions around what is the right dosing strategy for our kids under 5. I think everyone would agree we want the best data before we start offering those shots, the best safety data, the best efficacy data. I would urge people not to jump to conclusions. There does not seem to be any new safety data, so that's fine. It's all about the ability for the FDA to really determine the right efficacy, and it's 2 shots versus 3 shots. We just have a little bit longer to wait for our younger kids.
Over the last couple of days, I've done a lot of reporting on this, spoken to many parents with kids in that age group, 5 and under, down to 6 months. Some are saying that they are really frustrated because they thought that would be the first step or the last step in really getting back to life. Others say better to be safe than wrong. What should parents take away from this? And is 2 months really a long time to wait after all this time?
Listen, it's easy for me to say that 2 months isn't a long time, but for so many parents, I have older kids who have gotten the shots. I know the parents of younger kids are waiting. I get it. I can't minimize that, but it's so important to get this correct. You know, the FDA has to do its job and has to follow the science. We know these vaccines are safe. 8 million kids and counting have gotten the vaccines in older age groups. We know these vaccines work, but the FDA has to make the right decision. We know that there's issues around vaccine confidence. The further you go down into younger age groups, the less parents are wanting to get vaccinated or kids. So we need all that data. Parents need to be reassured that the FDA is taking its responsibilities seriously. This is all about good science and action, and this is what we expect out of the FDA. We're so close, so we just got to hang on a couple more months here.
All right, and so while we hang on, there's this. The debate about masks in schools is in full force after states begin to remove their mandates. So while that's happening, and now we have to wait a little bit longer, do you think it's too soon to remove masks in schools?
Yeah, this is a really tricky one, Phil, because, we're on the other side of this surge of Omicron. We've got to hang on a little bit. And yes, we want to start seeing those off-ramps. I know so many people are calling for them, but it's not one size fits all. We have to practice nuance here. You have schools with older kids, high vaccination rates, low transmission. Removing that mask, we may start to see that, and it might make sense because that's data-driven. But if you have younger kids in schools, you have high transmission, low vaccination rates, that's really the data telling you that it's not quite the right time to remove masks. So we have to be careful and make sure that the data is driving our decisions. And yes, we only have a little bit longer to wait for those younger kids. So better be prudent in most situations. So, again, let's wait to see this Omicron surge go away. And then I think we've got vaccines and masking can start to disappear finally.
Dr. John Brownstein, thanks so much. It's always great to have your expertise take us through some of this information. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Phil.
All right. And coming up next, the Russian figure skater who tested positive for a banned substance is still allowed to compete. What's next for the medal ceremonies in women's figure skating? And U.S. Olympian champion Nathan Chen opens up about what it means to him to win a gold medal in the 2022 games when we return. Welcome back, everyone. Now to the controversy over a 15-year-old Russian figure skater who is competing in the Olympics. Kamila Valieva has been cleared to compete after she tested positive for a banned substance before the games. If she finishes in the top 3, she and the other top 2 finishers will not receive medals until after the Olympics when the investigation is complete. So the games have to go on. Here's where things stand right now in the medal count. Norway leading with 21 overall medals, 9 gold. The Russian Olympic Committee is in second place, 18 overall medals, 4 of them gold. And in third place, the U.S. so far with 16 medals, 7 gold. Now to our interview with figure skating phenom Olympic champion Nathan Chen, opening up about winning his gold medal, what it means to him, what it means to so many watching at home. Here's Maggie Rulli.
It was a gold medal moment years in the making. Nathan Chen nailing his final performance, catapulting him into Olympic history. Has it sunk in that you're a gold medalist?
It still doesn't feel totally real. It still kind of feels like I'm in a dream.
I loved the moment when you finished your routine, the smile on your face. In that moment, did you know that you had done it, that you had gotten gold?
Halfway through the program, I had a pretty good feeling that I was on the right path. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
The 22-year-old rocketing across the ice to Elton John's Rocket Man. What was it like to have, Elton John tweeting about your performance?
I couldn't believe that he knew I existed. It was crazy that he did that, and just so special.
Still humble, the man now known as the Quad King, saying he wouldn't have been able to get this far without the support of his mom, who drove him to lessons day after day from state to state for years and years.
We didn't even think anything of it, and so we would spend thousands of miles in this, in our Prius going back and forth and back and forth. All the stuff that we did was worth it because we were able to make it here, and I was able to have this experience.
What did she say when you talked to her for the first time after winning gold?
It wasn't until I actually got to be able to pick up my medal and she got to watch that broadcast that she was like, I got pretty emotional. And I was like, oh man, and for me knowing my mom, she's definitely not that type of person. So it was really cool to be able to, it was really touching to be able to hear that she was so happy.
With these games, Nathan's already made history, the first Asian American man to win Olympic gold in men's figure skating singles.
I think representation is so important, and growing up being able to have characters like Michelle Kwan and Christine Yamaguchi, it was really amazing to be able to see people that looked like me do such amazing things in the sport. And now within Team USA, we have so much diversity. We have so many Asian Americans that are doing so well, Chloe Kim, myself, Karen Chen, the list goes on and on. So it's really cool to be able to have that, and hopefully that will inspire, the next generation of athletes.
And Nathan is not slowing down. After getting gold, he's heading back to Yale, where he's in his 3rd year. And Phil, when I asked him about the next Olympics, he said, okay, let me finish school first, then I'll decide. But Phil, I'm thinking he's not going to have any problems in the future. Phil?
Maggie, thank you. He's got his priorities straight, too. Coming up, it's Valentine's Day, so our friends over at 538 break down the numbers on love in the U.S. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone, and happy Valentine's Day, especially to my wife, Julie. Happy Valentine's Day. Whether you're a Valentine's Day lover or hater, people all across the country seem to have strong opinions about the holiday and about love in general. Our friends over at 538 spoke to some Americans in New York's Washington Square Park as part of their United Stats of America segment to find out their feelings on the matter. Take a look.
We're going to be talking about love, you know, in connection with Valentine's Day. Can I get can I get a vibe check on love? How are we feeling about love right now?
Not personally great, but
okay.
I'm feeling pretty good about it.
All right, okay. What percentage of Americans say they believe in love at first sight?
45.
36.
32.
47.
35. 63%. Maybe 30%. I'm not American. I'm from Germany.
Do you think Germans believe in love at first sight at a higher or lower rate than Americans?
I would guess they believe at a lower rate.
It is 51% of Americans believe in love at first sight. So now I have to ask, was it love at first sight?
Yeah, he was pretty cool, yeah.
Chris, are you a yes?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, oh yeah? Absolutely?
Oh, yeah.
But he played hard to get.
I believe in love at first interaction. Yeah, love at first interaction. It's look at them, wow, talk to them, then you could be in love with like a few words.
I used to be really skeptical, but I don't want to sound cheesy, but she was definitely a case of love at first sight. I know, right? I know, yeah.
What percentage of Americans have either married or ended up in a committed relationship with someone they met on a dating app or website?
59%.
47.
40%.
18. 37. 15.
12%.
It's exactly 12%. Do you guys use apps? What do you like? Where do you fall on the spectrum?
I'm back on the app as of late.
Should I say like congratulations or I'm sorry to hear?
Both.
Both. Okay. All right. Okay,
So my hinge date on Wednesday. Let's see how it goes.
Did you guys meet online?
No,
you didn't.
No. Old-fashioned, friend of a friend.
Friend of a friend. Wait, this is the most romantic couple of the day. What percentage of Americans say they have been ghosted? Which is to say, somebody has abruptly stopped communicating with them while they're dating.
33%.
11. 7. 42%. 60%.
70.
75.
80.
80%.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever been ghosted?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
According to this poll, it's 29% of Americans.
No, I don't believe that.
Have all of you been ghosted?
I've ghosted others. Yeah. Our generation is scared of confrontation. If you don't like them anymore, first instinct is, let me just ignore every single one of their messages until they're gone.
What percentage of Americans said they would date someone across the political aisle?
5. 20. 27.
25%.
30. 35.
36%.
I'm going to say 50.
44% of Americans said they would date someone across the political aisle. So, Amy, you got it.
Wow. Well, people believe they could change the other person.
Oh, you think that's what they're saying?
That's the problem.
Does it work yet in
No, it doesn't. And that doesn't work.
This is our final question. What percentage of Americans are open to being in an open relationship?
15.
18.
22%.
36.
24.
50%.
3, 2, 1, go.
15%.
It is actually 26%.
Wow.
Okay.
We're monogamous peoples.
What generation is most open to being in an open relationship?
I'm going to guess millennials.
You got it. It's millennials.
No, I feel like millennials are a little bit more open with like experimentation.
Wouldn't you think the younger generations would be more into experimenting? Like, what's going on?
I think a lot of people are more insecure maybe because of like social media. It's very insecure. So a lot of people like wouldn't be open to, you know, seeing someone they like with someone else.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. Thank you.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
We're going to go out to dinner tonight.
I'm getting a box of candy and some flowers.
Which we never do, by the way.
No?
You do. You know, you are such a romantic. You do. You always remember.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank
you so much for participating. I really appreciate it. This has been fun for me, too. Thank you.
Really?
Thank you. I won.
I didn't know it was a competition. Thanks so much to all of our friends over at 538 for that. Happy Valentine's Day to all of you. I'm Phil Lipoff. Stay with ABC News Live continuously. We'll bring you the day's events, breaking news, your top headlines right after the break.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.